In this episode of Banana Boat, we react, respond, regurgitate. We try to comprehend, analyse the recent attacks on the civil liberty of immigrants by the meant-to-be upstanding members of the British society. Immigrants has contributed the UK's wealth, prosperity, peace, regeneration, recognition on a worldwide stage has colluded with a fabricated society since the Pirates of the Caribbean, slavery, the days of the Titanic, plus too much wars and rumours of war to mention. In its world, money equals power. People are just disposable assets for the rich and famous. We are asked to join in the celebrations of the veterans of wars, which includes a proportional amount of immigrants who served king or queen and country. Impeccably in response has bestowed bravery awards on these heroes. Are we being fake, disingenuous, fictitious about the obvious distasteful behaviour towards immigrants? Or is it a case of the wool has covered thy eyes? It's the modern-day remake of the Titanic's legendary journey across the Atlantic to New York with the considered elites of the world at the time into disaster unknown because of the unwillingness of an egotistical captain, Captain Edward Smith. Famous words, even God himself couldn't sink this ship.
Don't need mass migration. He said much of the country had been colonised by immigrants. Now that word was a controversial word. And he said, okay, if you don't like the word, we'll tone it down. But just think about this. You ask yourself why public services have diminished. You ask yourself why rents have gone through the roof. The population explosion has done that. And then you look at parts of London, for example, where the road names, the underground signs, aren't just in English, they're in a foreign language as well. 1 million people living in this country don't speak any English at all. 4 million people living in this country barely speak passable English. And that's the point that he was making, that big areas of our towns and cities have been changed into something completely different to what they were, and that it's all making us poorer. And I don't really care if Number 10 is in uproar, or if much of mainstream media find his comments too difficult. I believe firmly that Jim Ratcliffe is right.
You've got all the same issues with the country, haven't you? If you really want to deal with the major issues of immigration, with people opting to take benefits rather than working for a living, if you want to deal with that, then you're going to have to do some things which are unpopular and show some courage.
And has this government done that?
No, I think they I don't know whether it's just the apparatus that hasn't allowed Keir to do it, or he's maybe too nice. He's a nice. I mean, I know Keir. He's a nice man. I like him, but it's a tough job, and I think you have to do some difficult things with the UK to get it back on track, because at the moment I don't think the economy is in a good. You can't afford. You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits, and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause.
It's been colonised.
It'll cause. Well, yeah. The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
You met recently with Nigel Farage, didn't you?
I did.
Do you think that they would be a good government if they were to win the next election?
I think Nigel is an intelligent man, and I think he's got good intentions, but in a way you could say exactly the same about Keir when Keir came in. I think it needs somebody who's prepared to be unpopular for a period of time to get the big issues sorted out, would be my view. Yeah. It's not an enjoyable experience, I can tell you, having been through a very small version of it, but at the end of the day, I think.
Just a wider question. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's language has been criticised by the Prime Minister on immigration. But Nigel Farage says that Labour is ignoring the fact that the UK has undergone unprecedented immigration in recent years. Is the government ignoring the issue?
Well, I think of Manchester United. It's a multicultural club with multicultural supporters. And I think of many people, like my parents, who arrive in this country to contribute, and there is still a place for those people. So the Prime Minister is right. A lot of people would have found that language offensive, wrong. He should apologise.
What would you say to people who have concerns about immigration? Is that wrong?
Well, of course, when you look at small boats and people coming into our country through irregular migration, we've done a lot to continue to bear down on that problem, dealing with the French, investing in returns of people who have no right to be in this country, and I did a lot while I was Foreign Secretary, sanctioning those who exploit people and run those gangs to exploit people, to make that terrible, terrible journey across the channel. So there's lots that we need to do on irregular migration, but let's be clear, we all recognise that there are people with talent who can make a contribution in a regular way to this country, and we continue to support those people and their families, and Britain has always been a tolerant country and a place for those particular individuals.
A Jamaican national who had committed crimes, Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer wrote a letter asking us not to deport him. He went on to kill someone else later. I'm tired of...
Jamaicans was recently scapegoat by the black leader of the opposition Conservative Party, who is of Nigerian heritage, must have known about the recent Windrush scandal under her party's governance. The Windrush scandal was a British political scandal that began in 2018 concerning people who were wrongly detained, denied legal rights, threatened with deportation, and in at least 83 cases wrongly deported from the UK by the Home Office. Many of those affected had been born British subjects and had arrived in the UK before 1973, particularly from Caribbean countries, as members of the Windrush generation, so named after the empire Windrush, the ship that brought one of the first groups of West Indian migrants to the UK in 1948.
This never truly caught flame. Instead, a slow burn of nationalism may be more powerful for it, and this was the culmination. More than 100,000 people gathering to march in central London, a sea of flags. Unite the Kingdom was the all-encompassing slogan, drawn widely enough to mean different things for different people, whether that was free speech or immigration.
Why are they coming in like that? Surely that's wrong. Why would you, I wouldn't skip on a boat and go to another country and hop off and expect to be well looked after. But apart from that, this is just United Kingdom.
Just to stand up for what I believe in. Yeah. We're losing identity of our country and somebody needs to stand up and fight for it.
People may have had different reasons, but they came for the same person. At the centre of it all, the anti-Islam activist Tommy Robinson.
Here at the front of March, Tommy Robinson's just there, thick throng of security, heavily protected, giving a lot of cheers, a lot of waves. This march extends a very, very long way behind us. A huge number of people who've turned out today behind that man, Tommy Robinson.
None of his previous rallies had drawn a crowd this big. And what's newer too is the overt displays of Christian nationalism. When the crowd assembled, they were led in a chant of Christ as King, and then the Lord's Prayer.
Hallowed be thy name.
As the heavens opened. 4 giant screens were set up along Whitehall. Organisers said the area was completely full. When Robinson took the stage, it was more like a football match or a festival than a political rally.
We weathered the storm, and today we are the storm.
And that's not much of an exaggeration, not when Elon Musk, the world's richest man, made a virtual appearance to back Robinson. Support for Robinson doesn't mean total agreement with him, though.
When he's talking about, he uses language sometimes, like that speech he said, traitors in Westminster. Do you agree with that?
Not necessarily, but I do think he has a good point with some of the things he has come up with, some of the things he has spoken about, the things he's got evidence with.
And it's clear that simply writing off protesters as far-right thugs doesn't really capture what's going on either.
My mum has been telling me about this march and I really wanted to go and support London.
This was certainly the largest nationalist rally in recent memory.
In the year ending March the 2024, there were 140,561 hate crimes recorded by the police in England and Wales, down by 5%. Compared with the previous year, 147,645 race hate crimes went down 5% from the previous year, from 103,625 to 98,799 offences. Religious hate crimes went up by 25%, from 8,370 to 10,484 offences. 7 in 10 of all hate crimes were racially motivated across all police forces. 77,690 racially or religiously aggravated hate crimes were recorded in the year ending March 2024, and the ethnicity of the victims was known for 42,441 hate crimes. 31.3% of victims of racially or religiously aggravated hate crime where ethnicity was known were Asian, 30.6% were white, and 23.1% were black. For comparison, white people made up 81.7% of the population of England and Wales at the 2021 census. Asian people made up 9.3%, and black people made up 4.0%. The consequences of an ill tongue has to be medicated with the antidote of truth, facts, not fictions, lies and innuendos, in order to balance an outdated moral compass.
Colonization. Colonization is when a settler community from a different country comes to our country and dominates and exploits economically and politically and controls the system. That is not happening. That is not happening. And for anyone to feel that we're being colonized is very detrimental. We can see what colonization actually does throughout history. And even now, if you look what's going on in the Middle East and you look what's going on all over, if you are colonized, you actually fight back tooth and nail against it. And if you are the colonizer, you impart violence on the people you're colonizing. That is not happening here.
There's a football clubs, right? They're generally the billionaires. They often seek to divide, dividers. You know, I watched it and I mean, the hypocrisy, really. The guy's a migrant himself, an economic migrant. He lives in Monaco. I mean, you can have a gripe all you like, but at least be here and be paying tax and contributing to our society. And I would say a lot of the immigrants, the migrants that do come in, contribute enormously. And facts
UK PM Keir Starmer reacted via social media, stating, offensive and wrong. Britain is a proud, tolerant and diverse country. Jim Ratcliffe should apologise. I am sorry that my choice of language has offended some people in the UK and Europe and caused concern, but it is important to raise the issue of controlled and well-managed immigration that supports economic growth. I am sorry that my choice of language has offended some people in the UK and Europe and caused concern, but it is important to raise the issue of controlled and well-managed immigration that supports economic growth. Following World War II, the UK experienced severe labour shortages, prompting the government to encourage immigration from Commonwealth nations to rebuild the economy, repair bombed cities, and staff the newly created NHS. This initiative included recruiting workers from the Caribbean, the Windrush generation, and Europe, who were vital to filling roles in transport, manufacturing, and public services.